or have to send you the information that there's a certain law, well, you know the name, but that it was the CIA actually funding all this research. So it seems that all these psyops and parapsychological studies are related to intelligence work, CIA work, NSA work, Pentagon work, and of course I don't have to tell you, so is the ET question and the UFO question. So immediately in my mind came the thought, and you're writing about it, so that's why I'm asking, well, if you can use your psychic abilities to read what's in a secret mountain in Russia during Cold War based on just a picture or just coordinates, and I believe Pat Price even was being asked by a CIA agent to remote view, because that's the word, remote viewing, to remote view his holiday home, but unfortunately he had it wrong. Well, he had it very much right. He just found out that there was another agency checking out his holiday place, so that was a bit frightening to the CIA agent, because that was not the target which he was supposed to have been correctly remote viewing, so to speak. So you were saying in your book, it quickly led to military intelligence agencies asking Swan to develop the necessary protocol for training military remote viewers. And of course, this is one of the military applications of all this ESP and PsyOps, and also the possibilities of mind control, of course. In 1975, he was recruited by a covert government operative, Mr. Axelrod, and here it comes, to spy on extraterrestrials. And when I read that, I thought, why didn't I came up with this idea? But of course, if you can look into a closed envelope or in a closed vault or military applications, whatever you can think of, you can also, in the 1970s, 73s, remote view what's on Mars. And it seems that some psychics had remote viewed some galactic information, and that might have been the reason for SRI as well, to go to Egypt and also connect to ARE, the Edgar Cayce's organization, and maybe this also relates to the work of James Hortag, who was also there around that time. So do you have, Michael, and I'm sure you're now back, and I hope so, otherwise this would be a long introduction, do you have specific evidence or suggestive or indirect evidence of this being the case, that in the 70s up till now all kind of psychic spies have been used or are used to remote view ETs on Earth or other planets? And what's the evidence for that?
Yes, John, I am back, and I did hear your question, and I think it's a very important question to consider. Is, why did this psychic phenomenon suddenly become adopted or sponsored by the intelligence community? I think in the early 1970s there was an awareness that the Soviet Union was taking psychic development very, very seriously, and that I believe that the US intelligence community decided in the early 70s to play catch up to what the Soviet Union were doing in that area. And of course, you had some phenomenal psychic remote viewers develop the field, such as Ingo Swann and Pat Price and others, and that some of that was involving espionage on extraterrestrials, because it appears that, according to Ingo Swann, that they wanted to find out, the intelligence community wanted to find out what was happening on the dark side of the moon. And so it seems that they couldn't do this directly, or that they were in some way constrained in what they could discover on the dark side of the moon through kind of electronic surveillance and what are the other kind of physical technology they had, that they had to rely on remote viewers like Ingo Swann. Well, you asked how much evidence is there that this is what happened. Well, this is something that Ingo Swann wrote about in his book Penetration, and he has talked about it in a number of interviews. Just the circumstances surrounding him being requested to do this remote viewing. Then you ask the question, well, how reliable is the testimony of people like Ingo Swann or Joe McGonigal and other psychic remote viewers? We come to that question of, well, truth versus proof. Yes, these people are very reliable individuals. They don't seem to be insincere in any way. They did work in the programs they claim to have worked on, and they're saying that this is the thing that they experienced. How much proof is there? Well, there's none. But again, it's that question. Well, we can know the truth without having proof, and that seems to be again and again what happens when we're looking at some of these deeper questions. We can kind of understand or arrive at a truth, but we can't prove it.
So this, if I'm hearing you correctly, this means that the government and the governments of the world and all the intelligence agencies all over the world have even more responsibility for the future of humanity and mankind than they probably realize. Because if this is going to be the only physical proof which is now being withheld from us, if it's true that ET life exists and that there are secret agreements with extraterrestrial life with the intelligence agencies and the Pentagon and the USA government, then it's their responsibility to bring it to the world in a reliable way as physical proof. And of course that automatically means it is that important to bring it in a way that it can constitute world peace and universal consciousness, because there's so much which depends on it, right?
Well, yes, we need to introduce these issues of extraterrestrial life in a way that does raise our consciousness and does bring about world peace and universal consciousness. But of course, I don't believe that this is something that the government will do. I think that the government and the military and corporate institutions that have authority and access to this level of information, they're not going to do it to help raise humanity's consciousness. I think they're going to, they have differences amongst themselves, and whatever is released will be released to serve a particular agenda, whether it's a military agenda, a corporate agenda, a kind of secret government agenda. All of these things have all of these entities or groups have different agendas, and they fight amongst against each other. We as a species, as humanity, as the common man, we must come together and develop our own latent psychic, spiritual abilities so that we can change the planet directly ourselves by raising the consciousness. And so that's why I'm increasingly putting my emphasis, my energy now into kind of helping raise planetary consciousness by helping people look at some of the things that can be truly transformative as a species.
Well, that sounds good to me, and that automatically means, if I'm hearing you correctly, that it's up to humanity, and we don't need world government or a world religion or a world new age spiritual leader or whatever it is, because it's up to us, humanity as a whole, right?
Exactly, yes. I mean, that's where the positive change is going to come from. If humanity is able to develop their abilities and be able to kind of like come together and develop a truly global culture where consciousness is shared and we change events and we make governments do what we want based on a higher level of consciousness, then we will have a paradise. But if we leave it to government or military corporations to kind of like create the institutions or the processes and the policies, if we leave it to them to do it, then we're going to have a continuation of the status quo. It might be a little more elevated. We might have disclosure of extraterrestrial life, but it won't be done on a way which is transparent and informative. It's going to be done in a way which kind of manipulates us into believing that while they're here to secretly manipulate us or to eat us or whatever kind of horrific image that might go out there, and then we should trust in the government and the military to protect us, and we give them all our money, all our resources so they can protect us, then we're going to be manipulated. So, but if we raise our consciousness and develop these inherent abilities, then we will have the awareness that, by simply working together as a species, doing group consciousness exercises or collectively affirming our voice, that we can change events around us and influence how extraterrestrials interact with us, then we truly will move into a golden age.
And I'm sure we already discussed a little part of this question, but is there any information or how the many ET species view us as humanity, and are they as diverse as their species? Are they as diverse in their opinion of how the collaboration with humanity should be looked at?
Well, that's a really good question. The person who I think kind